Media post that set the cat amongst the pigeons, the US president-elect firing a shot across the bow at BRICS countries that if they act to undermine the US dollar, there would be painful consequences. But despite quick clarifications from the Department of International Relations, the Trump message should, according to some experts, be viewed as more political in nature.
Threat to the world reserve currency, and I think we all know that. There's no immediate threat. The US dollar is traded freely. It's underpinned by the depth of US markets. It's trusted worldwide. And I know that there's been attempts to change the US dollar's predominance. There are some trading going on between Russia and the Indian rupee, for instance, but we all know that those transactions are limited. It takes some time. So I don't think there's an immediate threat. And I think the markets have also reacted. The dollar has strengthened a little bit, but the markets have taken it in their stride. So I think the immediate message that President Trump is sending out is that he is signaling to BRICS countries in a political way.
Praised the South African government's responsiveness to Trump's re-election after a positive call between President Cyril Ramaphosa and the incoming US president. He also welcomed the decision to reappoint Ibrahim Rasool as US envoy to Washington, calling the decision timely and the right choice for the evolving dynamics in the US capital, arguing that it's going to be key for Pretoria to focus on relationships, given the transactional nature that Trump is famous for. With a warning that South Africa's foreign policy decisions have created suspicion in Washington, whether justified or not.
No amount of explanations are going to change the fact that we are in a new global competition. So I think if you want to understand Washington, you must understand that Washington is now in great power competition with China. And that is the reality that we cannot ignore. South Africa must then focus on the relationships, must also focus on the G20 chairmanship that is offering an opportunity for South Africa to set an agenda that will bring it into contact with the United States in the next 10 months.
As Trump's America First policy now likely to shape both multilateral and bilateral relationships with the United States.
Government needs to take a strong focus in terms of on which side of the bread we want to see butter. And if we look at our relationship with the US, it's definitely an important relationship. It definitely adds significant value to our country. And I think the advice would be for incoming Ambassador Rasool, for which we are extremely thankful. He's a well-versed diplomat. He's had experience in the US before, is to pick up those relations. Let the US know that South Africa is an ally. We are a sovereign nation, and that should be respected. But in terms of an overall global trade and commerce relationship, South Africa is not an enemy. Business in the US, we feel very much like a child living in a house where there's a divorce happening. You're not sure whether you should be with mom or whether you should be with dad, but the reality is you love both. So we need to ask for our government to just look at the overall economic relationship. There's no expectation that one should take a different avenue with the existing relationship.
With continued uncertainty in relation to the reauthorization of the African Growth and Opportunity Act next year, particularly in light of efforts in Washington to review the bilateral relationship with Pretoria.
If we look, once again, the beneficiaries of AGOA, the main beneficiaries, which is to the tune of about 6.5 billion rand, South Africa is the largest beneficiary of AGOA, is the top 5 US auto manufacturers that have got manufacturing capacities in South Africa. It will hurt our employment and our manufacturing sector. But tariffs, as was relayed through by President Trump's ex post, will definitely impact our smaller businesses significantly more than what it would these large auto manufacturers. So to answer your question very clearly, AGOA is definitely still a threat for us, and I think it's something that we need to work on. But if we look at the overall impact, tariffs will have a much more severe impact on our economy than AGOA would.
Bilateral free trade agreement between South Africa and the United States also floated.
of course, is a multilateral agreement with a lot of countries. And we know that President Trump is a bilateral player. He doesn't like multilateral organizations. He believes that it is not beneficial for the United States. And so I think it would benefit South Africa to think outside of the box when it comes to the bilateral relationship, focus on commercial diplomacy, focus on the relationships that needs to be built, whilst we also understand that there's now a review of the relationship going to take place in Congress.
And while the unpredictable nature of Trump's manner is likely to frame the debate moving forward, his transactional nature might very well be a calling card for South Africa and other BRICS countries in their future relations with the United States. Shervin Brycebees, SABC News, New York.